Hello, welcome to our episode. What episode is this, Jarrod? Episode 4?
Episode 4, A New Hope. No.
Episode 4 of, uh, but
But that's not important right now.
With me, Ian Reed, digital guru and digital maven who likes to push a lot of digital advertising on people, and Jarrod Butts, who is not only a radio person.
I used to work in advertising. I used to work in advertising as a senior writer, and now I happen to be the host of a radio show.
The morning show.
The morning show.
Morning show.
Sorry.
What do they call it? The morning show.
Well, it's now called Platinum in the AM. Platinum in the AM on it's 103.5 FM.
Right. So I'm going to put a link to that stream. So you guys who are not within the Caribbean who have happened to listen to this, Jarrod plays some awesome music in the morning. It's very inspirational, and he also does some crazy shit when he's ready.
Yeah, I say some crazy stuff too.
Yeah, and then,
but that's not important right now.
But that's not important right now. Okay, so what I'm saying is that we've got a lot of positive feedback. We also got some other feedback. I wouldn't say negative, but we do have people who are trying to help us make this a better promotion. We still are offering,
and that's what we want. That's what we want it. We want it to be. We always need. There's always room for improvement. We can always make it better. That's the important part.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I'm saying, what you're gonna do is you're gonna just put us on, and you do a little clean house, wash your car. I mean, I can't say you're stuck in traffic because these days there's not much traffic, but if you are stuck in traffic, at least, we'll, and this is Jarrod's forte, we'll keep you company while you're in traffic. So I hope you not only learn something from us, but you kind of be entertained a little bit. I think we want to be more entertaining than serious minded.
That's the point. That's the point. One of the things about it is we want to educate you a little bit, without sounding too pedantic, and we also want to entertain you just a little bit, with our offbeat sense of humor. Yeah. So that's one of the main objectives of this little podcast, and we're still ironing out some of the kinks.
Yeah, we're working with the limitations we have being in lockdown, because we're still in lockdown because of the unspecified virus from the unknown location.
Yes. And that unfortunately is what we have to deal with, at least at this point.
Yeah. So so things will change. We're talking about maybe creating a little tip jar situation. So if you'd like to contribute, we're not asking people for money. That's not what we're doing. But if you want to help us, maybe invest in another microphone or something, we're all for that. But details for that to follow. So I will. We'll talk about that later. That's not important right now.
But that's not important right now. Yeah.
Okay, good. So today, what we're going to be talking about is the death of long form copy. Now, people will be going, hey, what's that? What are you talking about there? All right, so copy is what you write for press out. It's also what they write for radio scripts and so on, but it's generally known in the advertising world as the text that goes into the ad.
Exactly.
In the old days, way back when advertising was in its infancy, I can't even. You help me out, Jarrod.
Advertising in its halcyon days, and by that we mean yes, advertising in its halcyon days. By that we mean Let's see if we can cast our minds as far back as say from the 1930s right up until say the 1990s, the 2000s. Yeah. So this has been going on for several decades now. Yeah. The art of copy was to come up with a headline that will grab your attention, and then you come up with some copy that's equally compelling. Now,
it's a story.
It's exactly you are telling a story.
Because
you come up with a headline.
It was in the newspapers alongside 10 people died in a train crash.
Exactly.
So so it provided a little bit of a distraction for you, but also sold you something that you would be interested in. So it had a lot of work to do, and it required the word smithing is what the word would use. We use word smithing. Would we use word
Yes.
smithing?
But you also had to come up, the headline had to be compelling, and it had to be a surefire attention grabber.
Yeah.
So you could come up with a headline that says that your wife is more exciting than snapshots of your wife.
Yeah.
And first of all, now you're going to ask yourself, okay, what's this all about? But then you see the headline, and then you see, the photograph of a beautiful woman with her hair, and she's just washing her hair, so to speak, in some stream or something like that. And then you finally realize, okay, so this is about film. This is about the quality of photography and that kind of stuff. So you come up with a compelling headline, and sometimes less was more. You could be a student of the minimalist versions of these ads. You could come up with an ad with just one headline, and that would say enough, or a headline and an image of something, like that of a little child, that was used to great effect in a political campaign back in the 1980s.
Oh yeah, which one was that? That was a Reagan campaign.
It wasn't a Reagan campaign, actually. It was a local campain, but it was.
Oh, you mean local Trinidad, local?
Yeah, exactly.
Really? Okay.
Yeah. This was used back in the middle of the 1986 general election campaign. You had a picture, you had an image of a child's face, and beneath the image you had the caption, "Vote them out, please." That was all you needed.
Wow.
And that was all you needed.
Then again, 1986.
But the sad reality is, in today's advertising, people are no longer interested, or it seems as if people are no longer interested in the art of long form copy. So
I think we've lost we've lost the ability to effectively tell a story. So there's a famous, I think Ogilvy had a famous line. Somebody could come and jump in and correct me. Ogilvy's line is, "Don't sell the steak, sell the sizzle."
Right.
So the sizzle in a press ad back in the mid-century, if you want to use it that, is that they would write not an essay, but you certainly don't see those things again. You don't see that kind of copy again. And let me see if I could read from an ad that I saw. The headline is, this is for, what was this for, though? Oh, yeah, this is for learning how to fix TVs. This is back in 1973. The whole neighborhood wondered what Frank Mallon was up to in his workshop. And there's a picture of a man fixing a big, giant CRTV from the 70s, But the copy, I found it very interesting. I'm not going to read the whole thing. I'm just going to read the first paragraph because it's about 6 paragraphs, right?
Right.
Word had it, he was up to something mighty peculiar. And that line grabs me because immediately it's a story that I'm going to read. And when he didn't show up for bowling practice one Wednesday night, the Wabash Cannonballs, that was the name of his neighborhood team.
That was the name of his team, right? Got it.
Too. And I mean, you're just caught with this thing. I'm not even in market. This market doesn't exist anymore. Nobody's interested in fixing TVs like this. This is a different.
Well, ad historians love that kind of stuff because it tells you that in those days, what you needed to do, yes, you needed to sell the product, but you also had to give people a reason as to why the product, as to why the product was stood out head and shoulders above the rest.
Right.
And I don't know if it has a lot to do. It has a lot to do with our culture these days, because we look at a particular item, we see it, we want it. For example, no longer do we have to, if we're advertising the latest iMac, you don't really have to say why it works or how it works. They just show you the image of the iMac, the latest iMac, which I have to say looks absolutely gorgeous.
What, the new one?
It looks nothing like the 1998 predecessor.
Yeah.
But you're familiar. For those of us who grew up with it, you're familiar with the particular product and you want to buy it.
Yeah.
But what's lost now is, the capability. What makes an iMac an iMac?
Yeah.
Now we're no longer interested in why it works or how it works, but we're just convinced that because of its brand name and because of how good it looks, we are going to purchase it no matter what. Is it based on that alone, or is it based on our own notions of what we had before, of what we read before? Because I can remember back in the day, especially in the late 1990s, there were quite a few ads that didn't display a lot of long form copy, but they at least told you why you should get yourself an iMac of that vintage from the late 1990s. So just to give an example of what it's all about. So it's just a straight case of saying, okay, we're going to come up with an image on press, or, well, it's not press these days, but it's more like, you watch a Google banner, they flash an ad in front of you, and that's it. That's supposed to do the trick.
Yeah.
But I don't know. I think there's something lost in the message. I mean, the message alone should not just consist of an image and a headline. I think it depends on the time. It depends on the tenor of the times. Yeah. People, I think there's an old line from a book that says everything old is new again.
Yeah.
So maybe somebody in the ad industry is going to come up with a revolutionary idea, and maybe that revolutionary idea is to somehow go back to the form of long copy. Right. And maybe that will get people interested. Maybe that will make people want to read it.
Well, that is going to bring now into what I'm going to talk about our guest that's coming in a little bit, Mr. Jason Dukran, is not an advertising writer, but he is a long form writer. He's a freelance writer. Let me see if I can pull up his bio. He has a nice bio here. He says,
rather impressive. It is impressive.
Self-employed writer, amateur game developer, personal finance enthusiast, techie, traveler, and made a side hustle into a full-time gig. So Jason Dukran is a friend of ours, a mutual friend of ours. And he was interested in coming in to talk a little bit about his experience, not just as a long-form writer, but his experience in the orbit of what constitutes good marketing and advertising, because it kind of affects him a little bit. But we wanted to kind of segue this into not just long-form writing, and as you said, we need to start telling stories again in the advertising. We need to be more creative in the writing, because one of the things that Google advertising is insisting on is that when you see a Google ad or you see a Facebook ad and you click the link to go somewhere else, that experience cannot change. So you cannot click an ad that looks blue and then go to a website that's all red. In the simplest of terms, you will lose the sale, as they say. So the advertiser needs to know that if I see an ad that says, okay, let's use your political ad in the 1986 as an example. If I see a picture of a crying child and it says, what was the headline that they used?
Vote them out, please.
Vote them out, please. That's a call to action, right? So we say, click here, find out more, whatever it is. When you click here and you find out more, you're not going to go to a PNM, okay, sorry, I didn't want to call it. You want to go to a political party's website that starts talking all about, our manifesto and blah, blah, blah. It needs to follow on. The story I need to find out the rest of the story. Who is this child? What does this child mean? Why is this child? Da, da, da. So the long form copy of the landing page, what we call the landing page, has to bring me in and sell me into why I should give you money for your campaign, vote for you, whatever it is. So it's a chance to pitch the sale. Now that's advertising at its core. That's what we know. But when it comes to blog writing, Google also has a thing called search engine optimization. So we bring in Jason, we start talking about him writing long form copy. But it's important for Google because if you start doing a search in Google, you get a keyword. And that keyword is what you would have written in your blog. So people would find your blog and read your blog and click ads that are on your page and you make money and whatever. So it's a whole ecosystem. But that's not really important right now.
No, well, no.
So we don't know how much time we have left for this particular Zoom call because we're poor. So what I'll do is I'll bring on Jason now to introduce himself, and yeah, I mean that's I think that's what I want to do is I'm try to do two things today: is the freelance thing and the writing thing, and it's kind of two disparate things, but there is a bit of a connection. I have some stories to tell as well about both those things. So.
Okay, well, we can't exactly do it in the long form copy given time constraints, but we understand.
All right, so I'm gonna ask Jason to jump back on.
Okay.
Hi guys.
Hello, Jason.
Welcome.
What's up? I'm fine.
Welcome.
Good.
That's not important right now.
Of course, it's important right now. His well-being.
Jason's not important. Jason's not important right now.
Jason is not important.
I have.
You are a previous guest. Goodbye. No, just kidding.
Yeah, so I was listening to the discussion that was going on when I was muted.
Jason, before you start, tell us a little bit about yourself.
Yes.
Okay,
please.
so I actually trained as a surveyor. So I did engineering in university. And I started doing freelance writing around 2012 because this is probably the funniest story ever. So around 2012, I moved into a new apartment and I was $10,000 in debt because I had to buy furniture. While I was sitting there and I was thinking to myself, okay, how do I get myself out of this hole? This was at the end of 2011, so the start of 2012. I made a New Year's resolution, and that New Year's resolution was stop, be poor. Right, and the best way to do that was to utilize what skills I had, and one of the skills that I had was I was extremely good at writing and conveying complex ideas simply. So I took on writing like science and tech-based articles because that's part of my background, and it sort of took off after that. And after about 7 years, I decided to turn it into a full-time thing because I was making more money part-time than I was doing full-time at the office. So, yeah.
But Jason, you have some very good articles. I was reading some of them this afternoon.
Oh, thank you. I spent a bit of time writing about them.
Yeah, one of the things that struck me is this freelancing right for me. That article was very well written. I think you should give it a read. Jarrod and I, again, were in the same position as you. We were forced to freelance.
Mm-hmm. Well, in my case, I wasn't forced to freelance. I actually found myself in a situation where I was better off freelancing than I was working a 9 to 5. So.
Okay. So.
Yeah.
Okay. You had a funny story about having to survey somebody's land. Whose land is it?
Yeah. There's I can't give names. Names have been removed to protect the innocent.
Got it.
But I have quite a lot of hilarious stories when it comes to surveying. There's quite a lot of them there, but if I start talking about that, I'll spend the entire episode talking about surveying. So I suppose we should probably move to what we were trying to address.
All right. So one of the things, we want to talk about obviously freelancing.
Right.
But one of the things I want to bring to the table is that I had a conversation with a former student. Yes, I used to teach graphic design at Costat years ago, and even though it was an enjoyable experience teaching these kids, not kids, big grown-ass people.
Well, yeah. Costat is a tertiary education thing.
It was a bit tiring because I understand. I give props to all teachers because the amount of paperwork that you have to do is just ridiculous, and they just kept adding more things, But anyway, that's not important right now. What's important is that this former student called because she had an opportunity. She's freelancing, not by choice, because she had a full-time job, but she's afraid that she will probably lose the job because of what's going on with the unspecified virus.
Right. Yeah.
So she's got an opportunity, but she doesn't know if she could go full freelance. Now, I just read your article about it, and I'm going to send it to her. But my advice to her is stay with the ship for as long as possible, because right now, my advice to anybody right now is to stay with the ship for as long as possible. Yes, they will be slaving you, they'll be hitting with a whip, you want to cry, you want to kill people, whatever. But probably now, and I've been told this by 2 or 3 other experienced people who are in jobs that they are not happy with. Dude, I have to stay here because I cannot take the chance. There are various other reasons. I mean, Jason, you would probably say that's BS. You should leave. You know? If, as I said, I told her, I said, if there wasn't this thing that's going on right now, I would tell her, yeah, go right ahead. But because of the situation that we're in, where we don't know what's going to happen in the next 6 weeks, we're waiting. Don't make any serious decisions for like the next 6 months. You know, wait until things kind of. Well, what do you think?
Well, okay. So in this situation, this particular situation, where this unspecified virus is causing these unnameable things to happen to these unnameable people, you're looking at an economy that is not really that strong. Trinidad's economy has never been really that strong, and this has probably put one of the last nails in the coffin. So as far as whether it is to be able to hold on to your job, holding on to your job is not the issue. I mean, people like seeing it as the issue because it's something tangible that they could hold on to, but that is not the issue. The issue is that if the economy collapses, everything collapses. We're talking about you could have 10 grand inside your savings account, and from today to tomorrow, that 10 grand worth as much as toilet paper. Because it's not the first time it's happened. It's happened in Latin America in multiple places, in Argentina, in Peru, in right next door in Venezuela. That's kind of how things went on. Like from 1 week to the next, that's like the collapse of a currency happens in the space of the blink of an eye. And the thing is, like, sticking to your guns as far as holding on to a job. When I look at jobs, like today, when I look at a job, is a different thing to how I would look at a job when I started working. Because let me tell you, when I got that job in that surveying office, I was out of a job for about a year and a half. And that was during a time when the economy was not in such a terrible situation as it is now. And when I landed that job, I was in there was a very good chance that I would have lost it within the first month if I did not understand what was, because like most professionals in Trinidad, when they hire a new guy, they throw him into the deep end and see if he swims.
Exactly.
And if he swims, then he's welcome in the company. If he doesn't swim well, they get rid of him and they hire somebody else. That's why turnover is so high in certain professional industries in this country.
Yeah, well, we know that from our
we know that from our experience.
That's typically how they treat our
most of my contacts I met at the agency because they only lasted 3 to 6 months. So that I'm talking about if I was there for 10 years and every 6 months it was a new guy. I know people.
Yeah. But the thing is, when you're looking at the strength of a job, like okay. In her case, she has a job that pays her from a month-to-month situation, and you're thinking that you have job security. But when you think about it, from today to tomorrow, there's not stopping your employer from telling you, hey, pick up your stuff and go home, right? And I mean, this unspecified virus, I've seen a lot of people get that short end of the stick now. They come to work one day and their manager, whoever comes to them, is like, well, yeah, you surplus the requirements, go home. Right. And at that point in time, like, you're going to be thinking to yourself, I should have hold on to that opportunity. From a freelancer's perspective, and this is something that a lot of freelancers will tell you, because both myself and my wife freelance. And one of the things that you tend to realize is that a job, as in a long-term job, is an exception, not the rule. Right. And when you generate, like when it is you get into a professional relationship with a client, like I have a client that has been using my services for probably about 4 years at this point. They were there back when I was part-time in, and they've been using my stuff consistently over that time. And like because of them, I get access to places I would not be normally able to publish, but I have to publish under a pseudonym or I have to publish under somebody else's name. It's a ghostwriting. Right. But in that case, it's not about whether it is you're getting acknowledgement for your publishing, is that the information gets to the people that need to get it.
Yeah.
Right? Well, in my opinion, that's how it goes. But that long-term thing, it takes a lot more for a long-term client to jettison you, as opposed to somebody who hired you and paying you from month to month, because your month's production this month might be different to your month's production next month, whereas their need is constant.
Yeah.
So
no, there's actually is a lot of information. Maybe we should come back to this, like at a
maybe.
because I know
I don't want to overwhelm you guys with information.
I think it's good. And there have been a lot of requests from people. One of the other things, Jason, is how do I charge for services? And I think
there's actually so what we should do is another day when you guys need a guest to talk about freelancing in particular. You'll come and check.
Right.
I'll come and I'll tell you out.
Good. So guys who are listening, sorry we didn't want to build you all up and then leave you all hanging like Ryan Johnson and The Last Jedi.
Oh, you just had to do that. You just had to do that.
Oh my God.
No. Okay.
All right. We will come back and circle to this because this is a very good point, and I wanna table this for another time.
Okay.
But I want to segue that into the experience of this writing for somebody else.
Oh, okay. It goes right and then. So when I first started out, I had no content to my name. In fact, there's a funny story. The first month I started writing, I took on a contract that saw me doing 5,000 words a day of copy. Not advertising copy, but words.
Yeah.
So 5,000 words a day, so probably about 10 500 word articles, which right now I could probably crank it around about 15 minutes time. But back then it used to take me about half an hour to 45 minutes to do a 500 word article. So I would get home.
What were you writing on? What was it?
The topics varied. Topics varied from review on things like processors and hardware for computers,
so
going all the way down to breaking down scientific articles published in journals into everyday speak.
But these are things that you had experience with before, or you had to learn this on the fly?
I had to learn how to do this on my own because I knew I could write. I knew I could break stuff down. But as far as writing these articles, this is not something that I learned to do. The only experience I had before this was writing essays in GP. And that was the last bit of essay type stuff that I ever had to do. Now with the internet, it's much easier because you could actually look up stuff that you want to mention and find references to those things and that kind of stuff. Like I heard you mention SEO earlier. SEO is a lot more complicated than you mentioned, but that's not important right now.
Well, okay, so we're running a little bit out of time here. So what we'll do is we will probably cut it and then I'll come back again. But
okay.
Because we want to continue, we don't want to go on for like 3 hours. But we do want to cover. What I want to do is I want to get into the idea of getting people to understand that the marriage of blog writing, what is called blog writing, is married into marketing a lot deeper than people realize, because when people don't seem to, or at least clients don't seem to understand that the same search that they do brings up results that they themselves could be involved in. So for example, you just said technical reviews. If somebody searched for latest mobile phone for 16-year-olds, let's just say that's what they're looking for. Not saying that's what they are. Your article should come up first because you wrote an article about a phone that your 16-year-old that you bought for your 16-year-old. And that's essentially what the system is. That's the gaming of the system. So what I'm trying to get a lot of more writers who are working within the ad industry to start doing is to start really seriously considering looking at going back to this long form writing, where you are telling, and if it is about a phone that you bought for your 16-year-old, that's a personal story that people will be interested in, because as Jarrod and I realize, the emotional part of it is what's going to hit you, right?
Exactly.
Jarrod, I don't know if you want to jump in quick.
So this is what. So you see, again, this is what I was saying earlier on. Everything old is new again. So you find a way, if you're writing a blog or anything like that, you've got to come up with a compelling story. You've got to come up with something that's going to sell. Doesn't matter if the subject matter, or rather if what you're writing happens to be a blog or a political speech. Once you start to personalize it, that is when you get the attention of the prospective consumer. That's how it works.
Well, to interject, the thing is with modern SEO. Okay, so what you guys mentioned there is probably about 3 iterations of the Google SEO algorithm prior to today. Because today's Google SEO algorithm doesn't focus that much on keywords. Yes, keywords are important, but today's SEO search focuses on what they term intent-based search. So intent-based search is it's a weird situation because you don't look at keywords, because back in the day, well, I'm pretty sure that you guys were around the .com bubble when they had all these keyword stuff and things going on, right?
We remember.
So you remember that, right?
We remember.
Right. So back in those days, it was a matter of just sticking as much keywords as possible into as small a space as possible, and your search engine would pick up those things and direct people to it. It no longer works like that because Google released a series of updates to their algorithm starting from 2014 and continuing to today. And every time they update the algorithm demands new things from site owners, right? So like as a blog owner, you would use something that would help you determine, like, okay, so for example, one of the things I do is I manage blogs for about close to 30 or 40 legal offices in the United States, right? And they usually have a schedule for posting. So posts need to go out at a certain date and time, and they need to be posted every day or every week or whatever, right? But when posting to those blogs are WordPress backend. So I'm not sure if all are aware what WordPress is.
Of course. Well, but Jarrod has an idea, and I do.
All right.
I may have an idea.
All right. So WordPress is basically a blog and content management system where it is you could post your long form content, as you were mentioning, and images to go with your long form content, because one of the underlying things that fuels Google's SEO search algorithm is images within the text, but not just the images, because there's this thing that when you post an image to a web page, the image also has what's called alt text attached to the image. And if you are looking to put your keywords and your intent out there to your audience, you also want to ensure that the alt text matches with whatever you are putting out there. Then there's featured image, which also needs to take into account what your keywords are and what you're writing for. What you said about long form content is a very important part of marketing that people miss, because people focus on social media marketing. Social media marketing and long form content marketing are 2 different sides of the coin, as you obviously know.
Yes.
And like the whole thing about blog writing and writing for a particular keyword is you write for the keyword, but the keyword only needs to show up between 4 and 5 times in your text, right? The average that you're looking for within your keyword, there's something called keyword density that they used to use to calculate SEO previously, right? Back in the day, keyword density was, I think you had to be like between 5 and 7%. So what that means is that in the entire content of your text, between 5 and 7% of your words should have been that keyword. Today, that number has dropped to 2% to 5%. If you go over 5%, it counts as keyword stuffing. And Google will penalize your site for that. And penalties means that you would drop from the front page of results all the way down to like 20 or 30 or something, and nobody's going to visit your site. So it's a serious thing. And one of the things that Google does to ensure that people maintain proper, like the reason why intent-based search came about was because people were trying to, like you said, game the system now. And to game the system is by using keyword stuffing and keyword placed into particular situations to force the algorithm to read it in such a way so that it would direct people to it, even though that is not what people want in their search.
Okay, so Google's situation right now is that their philosophy is they want relevant, engaging content. They are too much of the technical.
I don't want to get too much into the nitty-gritty because I mean,
it's interesting where you say Google is what now, because Google's algorithm is in a continual state of learning. So what you're talking about there will probably change next year again.
It will.
So the what you call it, the bar keeps moving, the goalpost keeps shifting, And I've always told people who, okay, so I had a request a couple of weeks ago. Can you help with the SEO of this website? And I'm like, okay, but I don't want to suggest to do SEO for you. I think it should be a total marketing audit because it's not just SEO. SEO is just one of the tools that are part of, the whole gamut.
Overall digital marketing, correct?
Right. So as you said before we took the break, that it's not, you don't rely 100% on SEO.
No, you can't.
To do so would be really trying to cut jello with a or trying to eat jello with a fork. I don't know. It just can't.
Or chopsticks.
It's basically not covering all your bases, right?
Exactly.
That leaves you open.
Right.
And the thing is, like, and I see this a lot. There are individuals that do audits for their SEO, and they just do SEO audit. They don't do audit for their metas, for their landing sites, or their metas for anything else. So it's just their blog, and they just do an audit for their blog, fine. And then you go through the blog and you pull out their stuff and you tell them, well, this need to increase. You need to check your keyword density and this and whatever. And then they complain that after a couple of weeks, well, they're not getting the content, they're not getting the volume of visitors that they expect. But SEO by itself not going to give you those visitors. SEO is something that you maintain. Once you get to a point of being within the first page of results, you maintain that, right? The hardest part is to get into that first page of results. So,
well, it's kind of similar to when we used to when a person questions, Jarrod knows who the person is. Used to keep screaming at us, "I want this viral. Ian, you're not making this viral."
Flashbacks! Oh, God.
I want this viral. Why can't I have this viral? Slamming the fist on the table.
God. Talk about innovative. Good Lord.
Words. It's just like SEO. We're just throwing keywords out there and hoping something will stick. Because the idea is that once I put something out there, immediately somebody's going to see it. You see? But
so here's a shortcut to virality, and this is something that okay, so we all know the phrase that there's no such thing as bad publicity, right? Do you guys agree with that phrase?
I do. As Oscar Wilde once said, if there's one thing worse being talked about, it's not being talked about.
That is true. But if you want guaranteed virality, and I mean like virality that'll end up on pages all around the internet, it's very simple. You just do something wrong. Because they think that this is true. Because I'm pretty sure you guys remember the advertising campaign that KFC did for emancipation last year with the drumstick. So that actually made it on the pages that I follow, right? And I'm looking at this thing and I have to tell people, there's a Trinidadian meme, right? And they're like, where the hell is Trinidad? Because they have no clue where it comes from, right? But I mean, like that shows you do something, because the internet is a strange place. If you do things all right, you are going to be at the top of people's search results. But if you do things all wrong, you're going to be all over social media.
And maybe that is the thing. So would you say then, Jason, that in some cases, the mistakes and the cock-ups that people make, would that be deliberate on a company's part?
Sometimes I've thought so, but there are times where it's blatantly obvious that the company has no clue what they're doing. Like that ad, that emancipation ad is a good example because they issued an apology afterwards, right? But when it is a company does this on purpose, and you tend to find that especially in modern digital marketing, because modern digital marketing tries to replace the idea of a stuffy corporate identity with something that people can reach out and have a discussion with. Like, for example, there are screenshots of social media accounts on Twitter roasting each other. So, for example, Wendy's roasting
Burger King or something
Papa
like
John's
that.
and Burger King and those kinds of things. Because one of the things that modern digital marketing has promoted is the idea of the brand as an identity, and the identity of the brand makes the brand personalized. So it assigns a personality to the brand.
For
And
somebody
brand
who's
personality
never
goes a
working in
long way.
advertising, Jason, you hit the
Mhm.
nail on the head right there. That's it. That's it. Yeah.
But that whole thing about, like you were mentioning long form advertising before, let's circle back to that, because that thing about long form advertising and a persona for a persona for a brand. Brands that tend to focus on persona based advertising tend to neglect long form advertising and vice versa. Right? Because as a writer, one of the things, well, I've signed up with several writing boards, and because of that, I tend to get quite a lot of inbox spam from companies that are trying to send me writing courses now, right? And one of those companies is actually pretty good at what they try to sell, but they sell it using long form writing. And their turnover, when I did research into the company, because I wanted to find out if they were a scam or not, right? When I did research into the company, I realized that they actually do have quite a lot of people who just buy into their thing because of their long form writing. Their conversion rate on email is ridiculous, probably about 60%. And I'm thinking to myself that has to be like an anomaly or something. So a little bit more research, and I realized that long form content tends to convert more because it gets people invested in the idea of the particular thing that you're selling, right? Whereas short form content like a Twitter post or a TikTok story only goes for a couple seconds, and after the couple seconds, nobody have no idea what the brand is, nobody have no idea what they're talking about, and there's no memory of what went on during that entire 10 seconds. So
which is where it comes back to what Jarrod and I have been saying when it comes to, and this is the ad man.
But this is about misdirection. It's about misdirection in terms of trying to get somebody to notice what the product is about. Like I said in one of our earlier episodes, one of the greatest ad men ever was a fellow by the name of Rosser Reeves. And Rosser Reeves was talking about an ad campaign. This was back in the late 50s, early 60s. And the ad was about selling cigars, Swedish cigars. And it featured a very beautiful woman selling the cigar. The thing about it is, a lot of people remember the woman, but they didn't remember the cigar. But you remember the cigar. And that's the thing, because one of the things that he always said, that he always stood by, was to make the product interesting. Always make the product interesting, not the person selling it, but the product itself interesting. And I think
that leads into the story that I wanted to tell about long form writing way back in the day when we were doing ads back in the agency. One of the things that we used to do a lot of was the dreaded advertorial.
Yes.
Now, advertorial as a word doesn't exist. That's a made-up thing, because I've put it into Google, and Google keeps trying to ask me if I'm talking about advertising. I don't know where advertorial, that word, comes from. But we used to use this word, and especially when you remember when the Guardian used to be the tabloid size. Remember?
Yes.
Yes.
So in those days, we used to do this full-page tabloid size story about the company. So when Royal Bank became RBTT, they did a giant advertorial talking about the history of the company and so on, and that was an ad.
Right.
So it's an ad that we bought space in the papers for, but it's essentially a giant PR essay
campaign.
Right. So
one of the things that I remember very clearly was that we had to do an advertorial for Ramesh Lawrence Maharaj, who's now the attorney, when he was the Attorney General.
Yes.
When his office came to the agency, said, we need to put an advertorial in the papers talking about the achievement of hanging Dole Chedi. That was the brief. Dole Chedi had just been hung. They had just done the
Yes, I remember that. That was way back in 99.
That's right. Those who don't know who Dole Chedi was Capo de Capi of the
kind of like the character's version of Pablo Escobar.
Yeah, he was
sort
big.
of.
He was big. Now, not going into the details of that, you could go and Google it, But when he and his guys were finally hung, his estate had reverted to the government, and the Attorney General decided to turn his house into a rehab center. And I was staring at the account executive who came with this. I was staring at him with absolute shock. I'm like, are you serious? They want to make this a big deal? They want to PR the fact that it's in somebody's house, no matter, you know how many people might have died in that house? You know how many things illegal happen in that house? You're going to turn it into a drug rehab center? I don't know. It was just ironic. And I think Trinidadians have this thing about irony. They love irony. The irony.
Really? I don't think we have a gift for irony.
No, we don't. We don't have a gift for irony, and we don't have a gift for satire either.
We're using this how anyway. So I remember the writer who was writing this was leaving the same day. He had quit his job. So this was his last job, and here I will work.
This is not because of the art, right? It's not because of the art.
No. He had gotten a job of the islands. He had gotten another job of the islands, and this was his last day. And he and I drinking alcohol, and we basically having our time with this ad. And we're just like, why are we doing this ad? And it's a Friday evening too. Why are we doing this ad? But we ended up doing the ad. It ended up coming out. It was published, and everybody was happy and smiling. But the thing about it is, I was like, those one of the few advertorials that I remember as one. It's a government-sponsored thing because it's the Office of the Attorney General's government, and governments love to do advertorials.
They do.
Two, the writing was I don't know who wrote it originally, but he had to do a lot of rewriting, and it was obviously very much about the greatness of the government doing this.
In other words, it was just another. It's
propaganda.
Of verbal
of course.
Propaganda,
But what I'm saying is, I don't see that kind of thing anymore. I still see it. The government still does it. Don't get me wrong. The government still does it. We still see World Health Day or whatever it is, the Minister of Health. That's
or National Porcupine Day or something like that.
But okay, so I know you say
that kind of long-form advertising outside of the government, because we used to have private companies who used to do that. Who used to try to PR themselves or doing these things. I don't see that much anymore.
A lot of that long-form advertising is no longer long-form advertising. They switch over to things like sponsored content, because like a lot of those brands realize that they get more they get more click-throughs from sponsored content than they do from long-form advertising. And the reason is because digital advertising moves away from a lot of words into a little bit of words, right? They want to be as concise as possible. That's why in like long-form content is a dying art, because writing long-form content requires a lot of research into something. Like the average content that I write is about 500 words. That's about 1 page of content, right? And most places go for 1 page of content, whereas occasionally you will get an article that asks for 2,000 words or 2,500 words. And those tend to be the ones that need to get people to buy into their idea all the way down to the end.
Yeah.
Right. And in that case, your idea is to tell a story, as I said earlier, right? Because the only way you're going to grasp somebody is to tell a story. Now, storytelling for ad writing and storytelling as regular storytelling is two completely different things.
Yeah.
But with one, once you know one, you can do the other, right? Mm-hmm. Once you could tell a story in one format, you could tell a story in any format. Yeah. Right. I wouldn't be surprised if it is either Ian or Jarrod decides to write a book and the book is a bestseller, because they have the art of storytelling. The art of storytelling is constant across all forms of the art. Yeah. However, when you are telling a story for long form content, you have to know where to introduce your emotional pulls, what they call pain points. I know you know this term, pain points, right? Where you highlight your readers or your audience's pain points. And you focus on those pain points. Like I was making the example earlier of one of the places that sends me writing stuff. They like to sell the idea of working for 2 hours a day and retiring because you're making all kind of $5,000 or $6,000 a day. Now, yeah, it's possible as a copywriter. As a copywriter, it is possible. But the amount of effort you need to put in before you get to that point is completely ridiculous. Yeah. Right? Let's be honest here. You could do it, but it is not something that you can easily do. Yeah. Right? But
point taken.
If it is you're looking to do something like copywriting and you're looking to tell a story in a long form content, it requires you to be able to plot the long form content. Just like a story, you need to plot it. You need to know where it is your pain points are, where you introduce them, and how it is you link that back to the particular product you're trying to sell.
Absolutely. That's a very good point. That's a very good point. And again, coming back to why social media has become such a draw for brands and for marketing people is that they don't have to take the time to do that. You don't
No,
have
they
to,
don't.
so what you do is you tell the graphic artist, just do this visual for me and put all of this stuff in it, and we'll write buy our product now, whatever it is, some generic looking copy, or or even coming back to even the question about that what you pointed out last year about the Emancipation Day ad. I mean the idea of publishing a Greetings Day ad on social media, is that
sorry, go ahead.
Is that even necessary? You know, because it's such low-hanging fruit. I mean, it's so easy to do. I mean, easy in the sense of it's ready-made. It's
a ready-made product. Yeah.
So all I have to do is just get a ship on
just
the horizon.
water, right?
No. I'm sorry, I didn't mean it to sound like that.
You could be a particular company. You could be like a particular company and say, Happy Corpus Christi on Indian arrival.
Yeah,
there's a meme about that.
I sat down on Indian Arrival Day morning, and I said, you know what? Let me do an Indian Arrival Day ad for redesigns.pr. Right. And I started doing it, and I just got vexed and I closed the window. And the reason I got vexed was it just sounded so
forced,
cliche, trite.
Yeah, it's not because I didn't have a good idea. That's a very nice idea.
No. But what you described there is basically you are aiming for the very lowest point that you could get.
Exactly.
And you're getting there. And I mean, like, in such a case, you don't pat yourself on the back because, I mean, that's a ready-made thing. I usually do, like, on my Facebook statuses usually have this thing where I do things on a particular day. But when I, like, for example, when I did the Indian Arrival Day thing, I didn't actually approach Indian Arrival Day. I told a story. I talked about my great-grandfather coming to Trinidad because he felt fed up with living in India where people would judge him for eating pork. And that is the reason why he came to Trinidad. And my entire family will tell you the same story because that's a story that's been passed down from generation to generation. And that's a story. It tells a story.
It does. Yeah, it's compelling too.
Exactly.
Yeah. And your grandfather, because he and I have a lot in common. We both love pork.
Exactly.
Nice gyro pork, man.
There's a commonality. You create a commonality between yourself and the other individual, right? That's storytelling, right?
Got it.
Right, so we don't want to spend too long. This has been great. We don't want to just we like this how this discussion is going. And
yes, of course.
But one of the things that I wanna reiterate is that I'm not asking for ad agencies to just suddenly start doing ads like they did in the 50s. That's not what I'm saying is that we really need. I think ad agencies being in the position that they are right now, and people who want to start calling themselves ad agencies because they can't do events anymore, they start calling themselves agencies. You need to understand what it is that you want to do. If you want to own something that the competition doesn't own this long form thing. Take it, own it, sell it as something that you are good at. You can create an agency around that because I don't see anybody doing that here. I see everybody running to go and do Facebook social media for $200. Give me $200, I will do 6 social media posts for you for the month. That is not the market you want to be in. You want to be in the market where a company tells you, we want you to get people to sign up for this and buy and subscribe to buying our product or whatever, and we need to figure out a way of doing that. And that's money in the bank. And that's the reason why I wanted to talk about this, is because I think if an ad agency person is listening to this, I think you need to sit down really seriously and realize, maybe one day just stop doing social media. What if I just stop doing social media for one day and see what happens? Or let me try doing this instead. Let me try doing just more blogging instead and stop doing the short form thing. What's going to happen? But we're so afraid. We're afraid. We're very, very much afraid of bucking the system and changing whatever. We know.
Yeah,
that's
more of a cultural thing, isn't it? That's more of a cultural thing.
No, I think it's because Trinidadians generally go with the flow. They go with the direction everybody else is going, because if everybody go in there, then it had to be right? But the thing is, going against the grain tends to get you strange stares now. I mean, it might work. In fact, you might have viable reasons for going against the grain, but those viable reasons are, as Jarrod said, is a cultural thing. Nobody wants to be the one man standing beside the road with the picket with the cardboard sign in his hand protesting X, Y, and Z, because it goes against the grain.
Jarrod goes up at the side of the road and put up a placard. The end is nigh.
I tried that once.
The end is nigh.
I tried that once.
It doesn't end well. It doesn't end well.
It didn't end well at all. It's just wearing a barrel, and I just don't want to talk about it anymore because
this has been a great
they would just throw tomatoes and banana peels at you as opposed to bullets. But that's another story for another time.
But that's
not important right now, right?
It's not important right now.
All right, so I just want to say thank you for Jason for joining us.
No problem.
Yes, Jason.
Of course,
it's been fun. It is fun.
Yeah, we'll have Jason back again. I think the next episode we want to get into a little more agency life stories. So I think I'll ask somebody else who we know. I haven't figured out which one of our friends who go to the agency.
Do what you did with me and check the comments.
Yeah. Jason was also the one who said, Ole was being too long with your podcast, and now we've gone completely over the point of the, anyway.
The point of no return.
Right. So this one has been very long, but I think people have gotten. I hope you all got some stuff out of it. Those who are listening, please, of course, share with your friends. Tell your friends, especially those working within the industry, please. Share us around.
Yes,
we like people to comment.
Like, share, and subscribe.
Yes. Like, share, discuss, focus. Yeah.
Blah blah. I am going to start putting some of these things up on YouTube eventually, so that people are not going to be like, oh, YouTube.
You might need some fancy graphics to go with it. I'm just saying.
I know after things. I can work.
Ooh, nice colors. Yeah. I love
it. What I would like people to make comments. I would like to get some feedback from a lot of people. And the more comments we get, the more feedback we get, the better we are. We know the production levels could be a lot better. Yes.
They suck.
What's this guy's name who keeps saying we sound like ham radio? It's ham radio with Ian and Jarrod. No problem. Breaker. That's a 10-4, buddy.
Hey, ham radio. Pork. Yes.
More pork. Yes.
What's that, Jarrod?
Pork. Well, it's a meat product that comes from a pig, and it's something that we enjoy every Christmas time. But that's not important right now.
That's not important right now. All right, guys. Thank you so much.